Yeah, I think it's, they go back in time, the Cranberry guys, the Bartles and James, like there's all these, like you get a character, some of it's manufactured.
Are you talking about wine coolers?
Those are my jam. That's, yeah.
They make them still?
I don't think so.
Eric's got a stockpile of Bartles and James in his
if anybody,
garage.
I'll put them on eBay maybe.
He has a 3-car garage. One of those car garages is filled with Bartles and James.
Bartles and James.
Yep.
Welcome to the Marketing Team of One podcast, where we have conversations about the issues one-person marketing teams face when trying to meet their goals with limited time and budgets. Now here's your hosts, Eric and Mike. Mike, we're going to talk about AI today, but we're going to talk about it slightly differently. You and I have had some conversations. You read an interesting article about HubSpot. Is AI killing content marketing?
Yes. Depends on how you're implementing your content marketing, but if you are doing it a certain way, yeah, AI is killing content marketing, I think.
Let's back up and just do a quick little lesson here or a conversation about what is content marketing and why is AI killing it. I think from my understanding, the whole idea behind content marketing is you're using SEO, search engine optimization, or search itself technology to amplify your brand in a way that provides authority and builds trust with your customers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So AI and trust is already like this conflicting thing. So we kind of understand that. But what are some examples? Like, what is content marketing again? Just give us
I think in general, it's the idea, the past playbook for content marketing was to create content regularly that was seen as helpful to your target audience. Mm-hmm. And by doing that regularly, Google would reward you with higher search rankings. Okay. And so it's a lot, in a lot of ways, it's a search engine optimization play, but it also had other benefits too. Like if you were continually providing new content, you could use that content to, tease people like, hey, we have new stuff coming up, sign up for our newsletter or sign up for your email list and be notified when we provide new helpful content. Mm-hmm. I don't think that part of content marketing should go away. I think trying to get people from the awareness, like being found on social media or being found on search engines, you want to get people into some mechanism where you own the algorithm, so to speak. So email is one of the best ones to do that. If you can get people into your email list, that's a big win. It's
a walled garden. You own it. You can do whatever you want with that within respectable reason, of course. I think what you're saying is when we go into our search engine and we type in a topic or a question or a problem, we no longer get a list of links, which is what people were racing or chasing.
Yeah, that was the old paradigm because that's the way that search engines worked. They just provided a bunch of links and you had to hunt and peck through each one of those things to find the content that was most relevant to you to answer your question, let's say, right? So where I think AI is killing the content marketing is that it's specifically Google, maybe Google and ChatGPT a little bit. I think what people
Perplexity.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so basically the new search paradigm is that for a lot of basic questions, you don't need to click through 5 different links and, because of the game and people trying to monetize the game of that, right? You might be going through 5 gross sites that are showing pop-ups and ads and playing videos and all that stuff, right? Just to answer a simple question, right? Whereas now, a lot of the AI tools like Perplexity or ChatGPT, if you have really basic questions, you could get the answer right away. You're not diving deeper into
it was a frustrating.
pages.
It was so frustrating. Like right up until I think Google probably incorporated their AI tools, you would get just not to harp on search engine optimization, but you would get 5 or 6 results. You go through. I'm just looking for, and you'd never be able to find it. It was just too cluttered with that SEO juice or whatever it is. Yeah. So in a sense, it's a good thing. I think that
it is
provides a resource. It's a knowledge base.
It's a user benefit to the people who are trying to use to find answers to the questions. It's not a benefit to the people who are putting their effort into content creation, right? So now Google's just taking this with their AI summary at the top. They're summarizing all these different links they're taking your content, summarizing it with other content that is probably very similar, and giving an answer to people right away. So you've got that at the top, and then they've got the, frequently asked question type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then they've probably got somewhere in some mix of this, they've got ads people have paid for, right?
Yep.
So if you're going from a purely organic point of view of creating content and trying to be found on the search engine, you're quite a ways down the page, even if you're the first result,
right?
Which is highly competitive and hard to get to, right? So I think that from that perspective, AI is killing the soul of content marketing if you're using search engines to be found. I think I am. And then on the other end, you have people using AI to create content, which is flooding search engines with a lot of the same stuff.
It's a generic pool. There's no real specific knowledge in there as much as you're looking for, right? It's just this general pool.
I think the way most AI things work is that they will, if you're trying to, from the content creation side of things, if you're leaning on AI to create content using the old playbook where you're using a lot of broad information and posting it regularly, you're not going to be different than anybody else. And it's very easy for anyone else to do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
You could do almost a year's worth of content using ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not scrutinizing what that is and you're not going to any level of depth, you could post it, but I just don't think you're going to stand out at all from all the other things. Your stuff's going to be fed back into the other AI summary, just further solidifying this general
homogenized results that are just not helpful.
I think if you're using that playbook, AI is killing content marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are ways around it, and I think that you mentioned that HubSpot article.
Yeah.
They saw a serious drop in search engine traffic going to their website, but what they found was that it was the very broad topics that we were covering. The old playbook that HubSpot had was if you're doing anything in digital marketing, they had an answer to it, right? They had a blog for everything. I don't know how many blog articles.
And they've been that way for years, probably over 10 years, but probably since they went public, I'm assuming. It's before that even. But HubSpot is looked at as the authority. And again, they kind of led this charge along with a few others. But back in the day, we're talking 8-10 years ago, they led this whole movement of content marketing.
Yeah.
I look at them as kind of the authority around establishing what is content marketing.
What I think would be helpful is we can share the link to this article in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
They do a much better job of going to a deep dive of what that means for their SEO plans and what they're doing and what they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
If search engine optimization is still a core strategy you have for generating leads and everything. I thought it would be really good to talk about things that maybe we could do as marketers to still maintain that spirit of content marketing where we're trying to build some trust and authority and expertise in our given field, because I think that's still valuable, and trying to get people to be on your email list or to be one of your big fans. There's a pathway there, but it's not the old playbook.
What would you suggest then to kind of cut through this? Because now there seems to be this layer of general knowledge out there that cuts out all this stuff. What techniques, how would we separate?
Yeah. I think you probably saw it even before Google started doing the AI summaries, but we've all come across those links we would follow, and you're like, this is really saying the same thing as the other posts, right? I think a lot of people were going so broad and trying to cover things at different points of knowledge for people. And I just think AI is taking care of that first level of depth for you, right? You're not going to be introducing a completely new concept to people. I think you almost have to give way and let AI do that. You have to be there for like the next level. And so I think the strategy would be, instead of like doing a bunch of broad topics and trying to just do a quantity play of like keep doing things on, I think going deeper into specific concepts or content is going to be more rewarded, because you can show your unique perspective. You might have, ideally, if you have some kind of like expertise that differentiates you from your competition, including that in that depth are ways to have you stand out, but also help you build trust with the people reading it, the knowledge. I think there's a lot of the depth instead of breadth is the way to go.
So, I mean, you could limit down to what your content is going to be about, down to just a handful of topics, but they're very, very specific to your problems. You can speak right from the heart to what these issues are, because some of those problems that you might be solving are very organic. They've got a lot of different weird pieces to them.
Yeah.
And those are the things that you kind of need to really highlight to stand above the crowd. What you're telling me, though, is as people produce content that's deep, the problem with SEO still is that there's this summarization up at the top there. So why is this still relevant then? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's broad or deep or anything. You're still living in this sea up at the top of those search results. How do you rise above that?
I think it's about competition. A lot of the search engines, and I'm lumping in ChatGPT, Perplexity, and everything, right?
Yeah.
They're doing a better job of citing sources. Okay. Like the people who've put the sweat and work into this expertise, right? And I think when you're talking broadly, there's going to be a whole bunch of other sites, right? So instead of like, I think maybe what we're talking about here is trying to be unique enough to stand out from the competition. And so you're one of the few that gets cited instead of being one of the few that get the priority on the old listings.
Yeah.
I think you want to be answering the questions in a way, or maybe some more unique questions in a way where you're not competing with the 40 other companies that are being broad about this. You're answering deeper questions that people would be asking.
All the more
audience would be asking.
Yeah, because there's a limit to the word count on those AI summaries.
Yeah.
And ideally, what you need to strategize around is something that takes longer than that small explanation. To get to the actual meat of the solution.
Correct. Yeah.
So that is a much deeper dive, because you need to set context. And when you're talking about content and creating content, you're really talking about not just creating one pillar of content. I mean, it's something
one channel. Yeah.
One channel.
Yeah.
You're talking about, in a sense, the strategy should be you kind of triangulate around that, using different channels to tell that same story or solution.
Yeah.
Like, what examples?
I mean, like, we talk about SEO, and a lot of times SEO is kind of synonymous with Google, right? Well, it's not the only search engine out there. The second biggest search engine is YouTube, right? And when I talk about content, I don't necessarily just mean a written blog or article. I think there's relevant content takes many forms, right? Videos becoming easier, cheaper to create. And I think that if we're looping back to that goal of building some trust, sharing your knowledge, and building a rapport with people you don't know yet, I think the video is probably one of the best ways to do it, because I don't know that people can, maybe Google's working on this now or YouTube's working on this now, but I don't know that they're going to be able to replicate that personal thing in a video form in that search engine. So I think there's more opportunity to leverage things like YouTube as a search engine.
Yeah.
But and maybe people who know me for a long time may be shocked to hear me say this, but maybe there is a play for repurposing that video on social media platforms to get people, to build that awareness that's being cut out by some of the search engine.
In a sense, taking emphasis off of Google SEO traffic on their google.com website, turning it into a play where there's other types of content that appear on different channels YouTube being number one,
Yeah.
probably to be considered, and then social channels outside of that, wherever
Yeah.
your audience is. Again, know your audience, know where they're at, figure it out.
I mean, that's really like, if you shift your way of thinking about all this and go and say that, okay, I know I need to go into more depth. I know I need to be creating something that seems more personal to our brand and differentiated from our competitors. You know, feel like easy ways to like say, okay, this is where we're going. But like, I think what you said is that, you know, in order to really be effective at it, I think it's going deeper into knowing your audience, knowing your customers, and knowing their needs, because you can meet them at those deeper levels of what they're experiencing, not on the higher level.
It sounds like then what you're saying is we're trying to future-proof our content from the AI overlords, whatever we want to call them, the robots.
Or I do think so.
Because I think that there's great results with AI. AI is very powerful. We all use it. We all understand it. It is something that is changing everything that we do. I would say on average for the better. But the negative side of it is that there are winners and losers in that game as well. And the idea is that we need to create, or at least build a little bit bigger moat around our specialized skills, knowledge, whatever that is, our expertise, as well as build that trust. So I think that's where it's really great, because it does give you a chance to put out content that does humanize you or make you a lot more accessible or understandable, relatable, and make you more of a genuine brand. So all this is really pushing that same message again towards becoming a genuine brand that people can relate to, because people don't, what was that quote I was telling you this morning? People don't shake hands with the logo, right?
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate. It's kind of the same thing. They don't want to shake hands with a robot as much as they do you as a person, you know? So it's kind of the same thing, but you do have to kind of play with a lot of different, or at least 2 or 3 different channels to kind of build that strategy so that you are protecting yourself. Speaking about video content again, the thing that I think is separating video content, specifically YouTube content, is that there are no available summaries, or you can read transcripts. And when you do search for how to do this one thing, change a battery in this thing, they do send you 2 little snippet portions of a video.
Yeah.
And if you were really looking for that, you could, but you're still seeing the whole video. You have the choice to see the whole video. You see who's making the video. The brand is very present. It's not just this general text. And so even in their attempts to get you that answer as quickly as possible from a chosen video, there really isn't any way of Google to just summarize a video and then explain it. You know, specifically the example that I was thinking of was like when you fix your car.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to change a headlight bulb or something like that. You know, you're not going to look at something that is generalized. You want something very specific to your car, and I think that's where that
the make, the model, all the things.
Where's the thing? Is it behind there or is it underneath? You know, there's too many specifics that you can't generalize with AI on that you need to be thinking about as far as who your brand.
What you're talking about too is like there's a very strong visual component that's needed for the answer, right? Like, I guess in the future, you know, maybe AI could draw a diagram or create a video based on all this input but like, I feel like that's a long ways away in helping people out with that type of task, right?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to the visual type things.
So maybe that's a good way for people to think about it. Marketing teams of one, think of it in terms of that way too. Building, like, is there something so specific to your process or your product that has to be explained visually, and really lean into that, because that, again, future-proofs that content.
We're like talking out both sides of our mouth about AI, but like, I think that if you are on that side where you do need the more visual storytelling or whatever to help put that in, AI can help with that. I heard this week about a service that is meant more for like business diagramming AI. So you would give it prompts about, and its thing was about like diagramming processes or something like that, right?
So charts, kind of stuff. Okay.
And maybe you can use some AI things to help support your overall message in that to create those visuals, you know?
Yeah.
But I also think that there are some things that where video just isn't applicable, right? So I think you have to really get to what problem the people are trying to solve.
Yeah.
So like the example I was giving you earlier was that had a new camera, right?
Okay.
And there's a whole bunch, there's like way more settings than I've seen in a long time. And I'm not a camera guy. So I wanted to refresh my memory on what some of these acronyms were or where to go to change a certain setting. And I tried the video route. I probably watched 3 or 4 videos to try and answer what are the best settings for video for this camera. And they all kind of covered the same little kind of like basics, but it was not the video thing was actually frustrating to me because I had to get through a certain amount of the video to realize that they weren't really going to cover what I was specifically looking for. What I really needed was a written thing that I could scan quickly and say, that's the setting I'm looking for. That gives the quick answer for it. So in that case, written content that was very specific to the settings of the camera was a lot more helpful for me.
Those also, though, had illustrations or pictures in there, too, because
Yes.
I think that helped to support it. You can't just hit the AWB button. Maybe that's another idea for a podcast, is we just go through, search. What did you search for this week, Mike? And
so that's part of the problem. I probably searched for I used the wrong search terms, right?
Yeah.
Like I put in video settings for Sony camera.
Sounds right.
Right?
Yeah.
But really what I wanted to know is what a rundown of the video settings in there.
Okay.
And what each one of those options were in the settings and what they meant. I guess I could have done a lot of questioning and saying, what is the, P program mode for the video thing? What are the options for that on this camera? And go setting by setting. But that I knew once I found one, if I found the answer to one, it should unlock the rest of them.
Right.
Whereas the AI way, it would be like, type in this thing, it gives you one answer. Okay, what about this one? Here's this. Or this. So it's a lot more typing and stuff like that. So, I'm sure my approach is different than a lot of other people. Some other people would be like, well, yeah, why didn't you just do this or this or this? But I think it's helpful to know when we're creating things for people that, there's multiple different ways people approach the same problem.
That is a great strategy to think about when you're going into creating content and being very specific and very deep.
Yeah.
Almost start with the prompt. What's the question people would type into Google?
Yeah.
To get to that answer.
Yep.
And I've seen that as another exercise to help develop content is just start typing in Google what comes up first and what are the options. And that sometimes is a really great way to just get to, people are actually searching for this or they're looking for.
Yeah, when you're doing keyword research for SEO and everything like that, that's a huge thing. Like a lot of experts recommend is just rely on the people also ask things.
Yep.
But I think a lot of that is we're still kind of like, unless your question is a lot more specific, there's a certain point of like relying on Google to tell you what the questions people are asking means that those, I don't know, you have to draw that line between like what can easily be summarized and what can't.
Here's an example. We all hope and dream that we're unique unicorns prancing about this planet. Everybody's totally different.
Yep.
Every business is completely different. What if I sell tires? Nothing wrong with selling tires.
Yep.
But there's a billion people out there selling tires. How do I differentiate if I'm selling tires?
Why? I think we might have to have a day-long session of working on positioning and all that to find your own way. I will just point to, I mean, it's a case study for a lot of people to go into, but substitute tires for water in your question.
Oh, good. Okay.
Right? Like, how do you differentiate water from all the other water companies, right? Well, Liquid Death did it.
Yeah.
Quite successfully, right? They took something insanely boring, insanely commoditized, and were able to build a niche around that. And there's a lot of creativity that goes into that. There's a lot of like being opinionated about things, and being unique. Like, and that, I think that's really what you would have to do. So if I'm a tire company, are we talking about a local tire shop, or are we talking about the manufacturer of tires?
Let's say a local tire
shop.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you would have to put some things out into the world. And I think the content marketing play might not work for that, but that's where, like, instead of spending all this time working on truly unique content, maybe you come up with, you use that money for ad spend and then try and get, pay for ads, the more traditional kind of way of building awareness. But in that, you can't just, there's all the tried and true things about tires, right? Like, we're customer service oriented. We're going to make sure you're safe on the road. Your kids are safe. You'd have to find a way to kind of say that, but spin it a different way so it's unique, because people still care about those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and one approach could be you highlight your staff or your employees or somebody who greets you at the door, or bring in a little bit more personality, because there isn't anything, there's a million commoditized products and services out there that are struggling to differentiate themselves in a marketplace that's just overwhelming when you look at it.
Yep.
So the reason I mentioned tires is because you hear it all the time. Some play the big ad game. I think the other leg that they could probably stand on is the personality thing. Here's Jerry. Jerry's been working here for 15 years. Jerry's seen all kinds of crazy stuff. And then Jerry goes into a whole series of like, one time I saw this,
Yeah.
And then there could be like something like that endears a customer and draws customers into that to go meet Jerry or go work with Jerry. Or,
I think there's a national chain that tried some of that approach, and I would say it was probably successful.
Yeah, so I mean, there is something to that, and I think that there's, you've got a limited arrows in your quiver.
Yeah,
but you pick which one you think might be the best. Maybe you're the authority, maybe you're the tire scientist.
Yeah,
and then you go into the lab, and people are dressed in lab coats and goggles, and they're testing tires in a funny way or something.
So none of this is easy.
No.
I think it's probably safe to say, like, if you're talking about this problem of differentiating yourself in a largely commoditized market, that's not easy.
No.
Liquid Death may not be profitable yet. That's probably another kind of thing to mention, right? I mean, if I'm brainstorming, if we had a local tire provider come to us, right, I would, maybe one idea is like, okay, where's a market that doesn't feel like they're being spoken to?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So like, maybe it's women who are tired of being talked down to every time they go into a tire shop, and they feel like they're being upcharged or upsold on this or this or this, and there's this, like, there is a very masculine energy at every tire shop you ever go to about this or that. If you can lean more into, like, we're the tire shop for females.
Right.
And that may feel sexist or something like that. And there's
weird
probably some
there,
nuance to go into that.
For sure.
But like, I think it's identifying the market and then diving into what are the problems that people have with the competition at that level.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it.
It's hard when you think you're doing something, or your product or your service is something that is highly competitive and a million other people are doing it, and we don't do anything different.
Yeah.
Really? Maybe you do. I mean,
there's finding a uniqueness in there and uncovering that uniqueness and amplifying it. Because if you identify that, if you can find that work, that uniqueness, and if that uniqueness can also have that sweet spot of where you're helping your audience, if you can amplify that through your marketing, I think that's that's the sweet spot you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps make some of your content marketing and your marketing efforts more effective.
So who's the market for Liquid Death? Since they're so wildly successful, does that mean everybody's interested in?
Yeah, I mean, there's like they're kind of affinity based, right? They're like they've done a lot of really smart things to identify where their people who respond to that are, I went to a concert venue and that was the water that you could get. So no more of the plastic bottles. So they built on the affinity for people who do believe that plastics, plastic's bad for the environment. Their whole tagline is death to plastic, so they have that angle covered. Then they've got this like so opposite what other people think about water. They've got these, they've invested in artwork and they hire comedians to write their taglines and do commercials. They're trying to be so outside of what the rest of the water industry is doing that they've built more of a following around this like brand,
because there's a big part of society that wants to be associated with being an outsider. Is that part of their
kind of like, I guess I would give it a little bit as kind of like, this sounds weird, but a little kind of like a punk rock kind of like ethos to it, right?
Yeah.
Like every punk says they're super unique, but if you go to a punk show, everybody's dressed the same. I think that's kind of, it's that attitude, right? They isolated, and I think it came from, we should put another link in the show notes. There's another podcast where they interviewed the founder of Liquid Death, and it was really good, and talking about his background and how he took stuff in his background. He had an affinity for like skateboarding and that kind of, that aesthetic, that tattoos, lifestyle, that thing, right? Yeah. So it was a kind of natural thing to like, there's all these people that either they want to maintain that I'm in with this crowd and this is the water I choose to stay in there. I think a lot of the Liquid Death thing, to your point, is it's a lot more affinity based and psychographic type stuff, but that's a brand. I would argue that Liquid Death is not doing content marketing.
No, they're not.
It's a lot of brand awareness and stuff like that.
Water,
they've owned their uniqueness. They've leaned into their uniqueness. And I think if you do that with your content, in your content marketing efforts, you're going to stand out in your efforts.
Yep.
And over time, hopefully you find your tribe of people that respond to that unique thing. Your tribe's not going to be everybody.
Right. That's the hard thing, is you have to understand going into it, you're going to potentially be cutting off little portions of your audience.
Yeah.
Or your fan base, or because you're going so deep into one crevice of your brand personality that you might rub people in your audience a little bit raw. Some outliers, might not be into it.
But like I would argue that those people aren't even really supposed to be part of your audience. You're kind of weeding out the people that aren't part of your audience with your unique vision or approach or that uniqueness. So I think if you want to fight against AI with everything you're doing, you got to bring your uniqueness and lean into it.
And there's a lot of sources for your uniqueness. It can come from your team, your problems you're solving, your history. That's another one you could dive into. If
you have unique data or unique, if you have that, that's even better, right? Liquid Death, to the point that they're at now, right? They're probably not doing it all on content marketing, but they did utilize some fundamentals there. So I think it's a test case of like going deep and leaning into the uniqueness that paid off for them. They could have done not been opinionated. They could have just kind of said, "Hey, here's this. Hey, we're a new water brand, and look how cool our packaging is." But they leaned into it with the one thing they chose at that time to do, and that was still very early on, right? And so again, I think going to the that podcast I was talking about would be a really good, if you're interested, that he talks a lot about those very early years and how that early genesis.
So it's almost like content marketing was really required for them to launch that brand successfully because it set the boundaries for what they stood for and almost provided that platform. Here's what we're all about. And then boom, going forward, maybe back off on certain elements of that, but then amplify other elements of that.
Yeah. And some might quibble on the calling it content marketing. Cause I mean, really it was kind of like it wasn't a repeated schedule of creating content. It was more like a introductory video. I don't know if that's truly content marketing, but I think you could apply that idea to your content marketing.
Well, that maybe speaks a little bit too to, people who are embracing and have embraced traditional content marketing in the past and kind of have things on this rhythm and are consistently producing and putting stuff out there. Now's the time to really look at that and see how's it performing. And there's probably going to have to be some sort of a strategy shift in that based on the changes that are coming with all this AI technology.
All right. Like you said, some of this is just future proofing for AI. Like the AI is coming. You're just, take action now.
Build them all.
Look at things and just lean into that uniqueness. So AI is not truly killing content marketing.
It's
just killing the playbook, the old playbook.
The old playbook of content marketing. Yeah. To shifting you strategies is kind of the.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good place to stop the podcast today, Mike. Thanks for all the great information. Do you think you got everything off your chest?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so for now,
Great.
Ask me again in 5 minutes.
Well, that's the problem is we're going to have podcast content for years to come based on all the changes that continuously are happening on every week, it seems.
That's true. So,
all right.
This is good for now. Let's stamp it and get it out there to the peeps.
Quickly. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information and other episodes, subscribe to the Marketing Team of One podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcast networks. You can also chat with us on the r/Marketing Team of One subreddit or visit marketingteamofone.com to learn more.